We're Joseph and Kaylee, an international couple from the Czech Republic and Canada.
We bought a 2008 extended Sprinter van, packed up our flat in Prague, and moved out to my village.
Our plan is to convert our van into a tiny home on wheels and travel around Europe with our dogs Arthur and Athena. Today, we sound deaden. So today we are going to be applying sound deadening to at least the floor. I'm not sure how long it's going to take me. Possibly the walls. We'll see how far along I get. But I just kind of wanted to explain what sound deadening is. So basically it is used to remove vibration from metal. So when you're driving, all of this metal here vibrates. So basically, in order to make our lives while driving much less annoying, we are going to be applying sheets of sound deadening all over the van. If we're putting it on the ground, it's also going to help with the noise of rocks flying up and hitting the ground, which may or may not annoy our dogs while driving, we'll see. And also on the roof, it will help with the sound of rain. So we are going to be using 1.8 millimeter thick STP sound deadening. I have genuinely no idea if this is a global brand, a European brand. I highly doubt it's a Czech brand. But maybe, I don't know. Joseph ordered it, and Joseph's not here to answer any of my questions. Joseph had to go into the city today, so this is fully my responsibility, and I'm a little nervous that I'm starting it without him. I already knew I was going to do this whole project, but just that he's not even here to help me with the starting makes me a tad nervous. So Joseph just repainted the floor a couple days ago because we had made quite the mess of it. We hadn't let it dry quite enough. Specifically, we hadn't let the filler that we put in the floor to cover up the holes, that hadn't dried enough, and we walked all over it and just made a huge mess, and it was disgusting, and a lot of the paint had peeled up. So Joseph repainted that, so that is what I'm starting with today. If you've watched any of our videos, you know the first step is always cleaning. So I am going to clean the floor, rinse the floor, and then we'll see. Hopefully I'll figure it out. So while I'm waiting for the floor to dry, I'm gonna start getting my strips ready. We're gonna be putting these strips in on the floor on like the lower level of the bumps. So I've measured it out. I know general measurements that I'm going to need. I don't really know how much of everything I'm gonna need. First things first, I'm gonna start by measuring out. I think I'm gonna start with 3 centimeters because it seems like there's a lot of those. So I'm gonna measure out 3 centimeter strips, cut them all down, and get everything ready to go for when we're actually ready. So I just spent about an hour cutting all of these strips. I think there is about 15 or so 3 centimeter strips. It's just one sheet. And it took an hour, so today is going to be a lot longer of a day than I was hoping. But now I'm going to quickly explain how we're installing them. Hopefully I'm going to do it right, because I'm just getting instructions from Joseph. I don't know if I've clarified why I keep saying that. So basically Joseph and I separated different projects that we were supposed to be in charge of researching. Sound deadening was one of Joseph's, and I'm doing it. So he gave me instructions and then left. So now I just have to figure it out on my own. So I'll quickly go over how I'm going to install these. Then I think I'll just plow through the rest of the floor without any filming because it's going to be long and tedious and boring, and I don't think you guys need to see that. So I'm just going to take this little abrasive pad. I cut like a little tiny strip off, and I'm going to roughen up the area that I plan to put the sound deadening in order to make it stick better. So then I'm just going to take a cloth and just wipe it down to make sure that I didn't leave any like particles or anything behind. And then I'm going to take one of my strips and I'm going to peel it partially back and just place it. I'm going to put it in the lowest area where I have been told is the place to put sound deadening. So I'm just going to slowly peel it back and stick it down as I go, trying to keep it as straight as possible. So the last thing I'm going to do is take this little roller that we also got from the same company, and it's kind of like a paintbrush roller but like a little rubber head, and I'm just going to roll it to make sure this is stuck down really well.
Approximately 10 hours later.
So hopefully you are able to hear us because it is raining quite a lot today, which makes us very thankful that we checked the weather and decided to reschedule our original plan, which would have had us up on top of the roof, putting more holes in the roof, and now we are working inside of the van and we can actually just work through the rain. Even though it's much louder and much less enjoyable, we can still work today. So yesterday I spent 10 hours sound deadening the floor, and I'm hoping that the rest of the van is going to go a lot quicker, because by far the most time-consuming part of the sound deadening was actually just cutting the strips. So since it's bigger pieces everywhere else in the van, hopefully it will go a lot quicker.
So I think that Kaylee did a really good job with the sound deadening, and she followed my instructions, so it's good, I would say.
I'm happy to hear. I was a little nervous. So today we are going to take a much needed break from sound deadening, and we're actually going to build our subfloor.
Yeah.
Getting the materials for this project was actually a lot harder than I expected.
We started at our local OB where we were able to buy insulation. So we were looking for plywood for our subfloor, and we couldn't really find anything other than in Home Depot, like a store. It's called OB, and they didn't have enough of it close to our village. At OB, one sheet of plywood costs 62 euros roughly, and in the place where we are going right now it costs like half price, so like 30 euros roughly, and it's just like a village close to Prague, and they have like a big storage area. We couldn't really find the size which we were looking for, 8 millimeters. They only have 3 of them and we need 4, and so they have 10 millimeters, so we are going to get that one, and it's most likely 45 minutes drive. We are at the third store for this project. It's a Hornbach, and we are buying planks here which are for the subfloor, so it's even and the subfloor can lay flat on the ground. We already started on the subfloor yesterday, so it can dry. We glued wood planks that were 2 by 3.5 centimeter into the 3 lowest indents on the floor. I made sure it was stuck down really well and then cleaned the excess glue.
We weighed it down with dog food bags because, of course we did.
And now it's time for insulation. If only it was that easy.
We used underlaminate in the lower grooves of the floor to make it more level.
We cut them down to size and glued them to the floor with aerosol glue.
We used 4 centimeter thick insulation and cut it down to fit the contours of the van.
For the trickier angles, we made cardboard stencils. We glued the insulation down with a flexible glue.
And marked the wood planks so we would know where to put screws.
Yesterday we were up really late finishing the insulation, and today we are starting to put in subfloor from plywood.
Our boards were much wider than our van, so we started by cutting off the excess. Kitty really enjoyed playing with the plastic sheets we put down.
We then traced out the old subfloor onto 4 sheets of 10mm plywood and cut out the contours of the van with a jigsaw.
We sanded down the edges and glued the ply to the insulation. Finally, we screwed the ply through the insulation into the wood planks we glued in at the very beginning. After 4 days of work, we finally finished the subfloor. So now that we have finished the subfloor and I am now able to walk across the whole van, it is time for me to finish the sound deadening. However, I did do some of it on the walls while I was waiting for Joseph to do a few different things earlier today. So a lot of the walls are done, but I wanted to give a demonstration of what the point of sound deadening is. So let's see if you can hear a difference. So as you can see, it is not only a lot quieter, it's also a lot less like echoey. It's a much deeper sound when it hits. So hopefully that should do a lot to make the van less rattly when we drive. Up until we put things in it that will rattle. So I spent hours sitting on my bedroom floor watching Murder, She Wrote and cutting pieces to put on the roof. So let's get to it. It has been a very long week. So the sound deadening cost us over 200 euros and took me about, I would say, over 20 hours altogether. It was a lot of work, quite expensive, and we just took the van for a drive, and honestly, I would say it was absolutely worth it. It was much, much, much quieter, and for the amount that we intend to be driving this van, obviously, it is going to make our lives so much easier. So I would say worth the money, worth the time. It was worth it. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to see our new videos.
If you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. Please share this video and give us a like.
To see more from us, check out our Instagram @Joseph and Kaylee, or catch up on some of our older videos.